Hi dancers, if I look a little different today, it's not just the hair, which is a little darker. It's not just the glasses. It's also probably because you're not used to seeing me in a bed. If you regularly watch my videos, I'm sure you can tell that I'm generally pretty high energy. I'm pretty peppy. I like to move. I don't like to hold still. You can probably gather that I am not the kind of person to lounge around and lay down and take naps. For those of you that are following me on Instagram, you probably saw my most recent post, and some of you were messaging me saying, like, please give us an update, let us know how you're feeling. So this video is to give you an update, but also talk about a very important topic, and that is invisible illnesses among dancers. Now, there are already plenty of people that like to address these issues, whether it's mental health issues like depression or anxiety or eating disorders. And, both of those things I struggle with too. Those are things that a lot of dancers deal with at one time or another in their life. I've had a very precarious relationship with my body and with food for over 10 years, and I've been depressed and had suicidal thoughts and tendencies as early as 7 years old in third grade. So that's no good. But both of those things don't affect me nearly as much as something called endometriosis. Endometriosis is a chronic disease. There is no cure for it. And that has taken a bigger toll on my life than any other mental health issue ever has. If you don't know what endometriosis is or what it does to the body, I did make a video explaining it on my other YouTube channel, which is just Victoria Von Rhine. That is the channel for my non-dancer life. I just talk about bullshit on that page, mostly like my skin issues or like reviewing products or some like fun vegan recipes that I come up with. And then there are a couple of videos talking about endometriosis and then a drug called Lupron, which is sometimes prescribed to people with endometriosis. So if you want to know what that's about, you can watch that video. I have a link down below taking you to my other page with a video about that. So to go back with what happened to me, I went on one of my first auditions this past weekend. And of course, as always, this always happens, my period landed on the day of the audition. I swear Murphy's Law is in my DNA. If my period can wait a week late just to land on an audition, it will, and it has. And even if I'm not due for my period until a week later, my period has been known to come early just to land on the day of an audition or a performance or something important to me. My period always, without fail. It's insane. It's ridiculous. And people would think I'm lying unless they were there to witness it. I have my boyfriend and my parents to vouch for me. My period always lands on a day of something important. Even if I'm not due, it always happens. It's a sick, fucking, cruel joke. And I am at the point where I'm considering a hysterectomy, just so I don't have to menstruate anymore. I don't care whether or not it actually cures the endometriosis. I just can't keep menstruating. My uterus is like playing a sick fucking joke on me. It sabotages me all the time. So of course my period comes a few days early just to land on the day of an audition. Now, up until recently, my period has been pretty manageable. Before I had surgery in 2012 to remove endometriosis cysts, I would be bedbound for 5 days. I would be throwing up. I would have trouble breathing just because it hurt to expand my rib cage. I would have to walk hunched over because it hurt too much to straighten my torso to stand upright. I would take oxycodone, Percocets, and that would still just barely take the edge off the pain. So since the surgery in 2012, I've been on and off a couple of different drugs, hormonal drugs. I've been on a couple of different birth control pills. The birth control pill really, it messes with me hormonally. It exacerbates my depression. I'm almost always crying. I'm useless. I'm a useless, sad, depressed lump that wants to die, and it's just no way to live. So it's like, be on the pill, which makes your period better, but then you're depressed and wanting to die every day of the month, or not be on the birth control pill and actually feel like you are dying a couple of days a month. So post-surgery, sans birth control pill, my period usually sucks. The first day of my period, the second day of my period, some days I'll get cramps the day before my period, but I am mostly human again and definitely functional by day 3. I still do need painkillers, strong painkillers, narcotics. I still need Percocets to take the edge off my cramps on days 1. Usually it's just day 1 of my period. I have gone through day 2 without painkillers. So this time around, my period lands the day of my audition. It's painful enough that I'm debating not going, just skipping the audition, which I hate doing because that's my life. My life always seems to be missing out on auditions, performances, special events, birthdays. I'm always missing out on important things because of my period. I want to be able to power through it. I want to be able to manage it. I want to be able to just adjust accordingly and do what I gotta do and get through the day. I don't want this disease to have control over my life, but it does. So here I am Sunday morning weighing the options. Do I be in such unbearable pain that I can hardly walk and then miss this audition? Or do I take my usual painkillers that might take the edge off my pain, but also make me a zombie? So these Percocets are no joke. Everyone's concern is that they're so addictive. People get addicted to narcotics all the time. They die of overdosing. I hate that I have to take them. I can see why people like this feeling, this very lightheaded, floaty, kind of detached from your body kind of feeling. I can see why people would like that, but as a dancer, I hate that. I hate feeling like I'm not connected to my body. I hate feeling like something else is controlling my body. When I take a Percocet, I'm dizzy, I'm nauseous. I feel like I'm a marionette puppet, like I'm trying to control my body from above it rather than in it. I get cotton mouth. My thoughts are slow. You can probably tell just by the way that I'm talking that I'm on these painkillers right now because my speech feels slurred. It feels like being drunk. So I decided to take my painkillers and go audition because this was an audition that I was very interested in. It is a New York-based ballet company, and I live in New York, so while there are auditions for places all over the country, I don't want to relocate. I do want to stay in New York or in the New York area. And out of all the auditions I have lined up from now until March or April, only 2 or 3 of those auditions are for companies that are in New York. And I didn't want to miss one of the only ones. So I took my painkillers and I went. And of course, the whole time on the way there, I'm thinking about, am I going to be able to get through the whole thing? Am I going to feel too nauseous? Am I going to be too floppy and too tired because of the way this makes me feel? Is it even going to dull the pain all the way? Or is the pain going to come back in the middle of the audition? Am I going to throw up? And I'm thinking, should I even tell them? Should I tell whoever is giving the audition that, look, I have a medical problem, I might not be performing the best to my abilities today? Do I want to tell them? Is it a risk telling them? Because in ballet, especially in auditions, they could cut you for any reason. They're actively searching for reasons to cut as many people as they can so that it's easier for them to make a decision. So if I go up to them and say, look, I have endometriosis and I have to take painkillers or else I can't dance, that by itself could be an excuse or a reason to just say, well, we don't want that one because she's going to cause too many problems with her endometriosis. They might even think, what? She still has enough body fat to menstruate? Dancers in peak condition usually don't have enough body fat to menstruate. A lot of them don't even have their periods. This one still menstruates. I guess she's got too much fat on her. There are so many ridiculous ideas going through my head of why it would hurt me to tell them about my health issue. You never want to let on that you're injured. You never want to let on that you have a problem. Ballet dancers are kind of expected to be superhuman. It doesn't matter what's going wrong, you got to deal with it. You got to make it work, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to work with somebody that has all these issues and problems and caveats. And at the end of the day, an audience doesn't care what your problems are. They paid for performance and they want to see a stellar performance as if everybody is in immaculate health and perfect, and they don't want to hear excuses, and rightfully so, because you didn't pay money for excuses, you paid money to see a show. So I went in on the audition, and I was feeling okay pain-wise. So I said, okay, I don't think I need to say anything. I think I can get through this. And the first half of class was fine. The bar was fine. I did the bar in point shoes. Usually women will take the bar in slippers and then put on their point shoes for the center. I hate slippers. I hate warming up in slippers and then putting point shoes on. I feel best when I can warm up at the bar with point shoes on. It's just easier for me. I hate slippers. I feel more comfortable in point shoes. So, started the bar in point shoes, and at the bar I felt okay. I really felt okay. I was like, okay, this is gonna be fine. This is gonna be okay. I'm gonna get through this. But then once we got to the center, and I didn't have something to hold on to, and now my body was moving through space rather than staying at the bar in one spot, I started to feel very dizzy. Again, this is like being drunk. You get the spins. If you turn your head, it feels like it takes an extra second for the room to catch up. So right away, without something to hold on to, in the adagio, which is usually one of my favorite things to do, I'm noticing my standing leg is wobbly. I'm having trouble holding balances. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We can get through this. Adagio is like your redeeming moment. You can make it work. Just relax your upper body. Make it look like it's okay. Just, if you make an error, fix it. Like that's what it's all about. You're never going to have a perfect performance. All you can do is just cover it up. You can't prevent mistakes. There are some things that are going to be out of your hands, and what makes you a professional is just clean it up, make it work, still make it look like not a problem, no problem. So adagio in the center, tendues in the center, fine. Then we start going across the floor. Balancés, développés, pirouettes, dégagé turns across the floor. I'm normally a decent turner. Not gonna lie, I'm not one of those girls that can bang out like 5 or 7 pirouettes with her thumb up her nose. I've never been that good of a turner, but I have been consistent with doubles, and then on a good day I can make a nice triple. I've always been a natural turner. I never really struggled that much with turns, but once we started turning, I swear I was going to throw up. I was so dizzy. I felt like I had no spatial awareness. I couldn't tell if girls were running into me or if I was running into them. I feel like my limbs were just all over the place, like they weren't attached to my body. So in a combination, on a normal, ordinary day, I could have done a double en dehors pirouette, a double en dedans pirouette, and a double dégagé turn, or some people call it a lame duck, or some people call it an en dehors piqué turn. And I noticed that I'm behind the music. Things are just taking my body a split second too long. I'm falling behind everybody else. I had to take out a whole turn completely just so that I would finish on the music with everybody else. Couldn't feel my feet, which you would think is a good thing because your toes are hurting after being in point shoes for the whole bar, but you need to feel your feet if you're going to be turning on them. And then at the end, I was so embarrassed about this, so fucking ashamed. They asked us to do some Fouetté turns. And they didn't even want 32. They just wanted 16. And Fouetté turns are something that have always been there for me. They're always just in my back pocket. Even if I'm not in shape, even if I don't practice them every day, even if I'm not in shape, I have always been able to squeeze out a solid 15 or 20 Fouetté turns. Just whenever I decide to call upon them, they're there. That's just something that has always been there for me. In fact, next time I am in the studio and I have my laptop with me, I will show you, just to show you, I can do Fouetté turns. I've never been afraid of Fouetté turns. They're comfortable for me. I approach them with enthusiasm. Granted, if I'm not in shape, my calf muscle itself might not have the stamina to do all 32, but at the audition, they asked for 16. And I know I could have given 16 easily. So I go up, and I can't even do the first pirouette into the Fouetté turns. Right away, I have no idea where my leg is underneath me. And I can see in the mirror I'm struggling to somehow just flop my leg under my body, hopping, struggling in my point shoes. My knee is bent, the leg going out to the side is low and floppy, and my arms are doing something that is not a Fouetté turn. And I was so embarrassed because usually the Fouetté turns are my moment to redeem myself. If I fucked up anywhere else in the audition, I come through with the Fouetté turns just to show them, look, I'm capable of dancing. I have this technique. I have this coordination. And good Lord, I couldn't even do that. So I was unhappy enough with my performance that at the end of the audition, I did decide to go up to the two women one woman gave the class and the other one was observing and taking notes on her notepad. So I approached the woman who gave the class the end, and I said to her, for what it's worth, I don't know if you want to know or if you need to know, I can usually turn. But I told her I'm on medicine that makes me really dizzy. The room is spinning. I swear I'm going to throw up. I have endometriosis, so unless I'm hopped up on painkillers, I wouldn't be walking. And she seemed to be sympathetic. And, she just asked me one or two other things. She said, are you working? And I told her I teach and I do freelancing, paid per performance type things. But I don't have a contract with a company. And she was just nodding, and she was like, yeah, okay. So there are so many compromises and trade-offs that I have to make just because of my fucking period. It's, you do the audition and potentially fuck it up, or miss the audition. Tell the people that you have a health issue and make them maybe not want to hire you, or tell them and maybe somehow save yourself, or get a shred of mercy out of them so that they know you don't suck this bad. And this time around in particular, I'm noticing these periods are getting worse. This is day 3, and I'm still bedbound. I slept until almost 11 a.m., which is not like me at all. I'm always awake by like 8:45, 9 the latest. Yesterday, I went to sleep at 6 p.m., and I can usually stay up till 10 or 11. All I have been doing after that audition is just laying down and just sleeping and crying from the pain, or taking a painkiller because it was so unbearable. And this is not normal. Like I said, usually by day 3 I'm functional again. And I'm not. And I don't enjoy this. I don't like being in bed. I wanted to take a ballet class this morning. I want to be moving. I want to be working on those Fouetté turns just to make sure that they're still there and I still know how to do them. I want to be in the studio making the videos and the tutorials, which, by the way, I know I still have like 4 or 5 questions left from you guys, so there's still at least 4 or 5 more tutorial videos coming up. But like I said, my usual studio hasn't been having classes at all for this past month, so I haven't really found a space that I can use for free with my laptop and make tutorials. So I haven't forgotten about you. I know I still have to do a video for helping you with a higher développé, a video talking about people that do have high arches and high insteps and how to kind of manage or control that. I don't know how I'm going to help you because I have the opposite problem. Somebody needs help with straightening their knees all the way, so you're probably hypoextended rather than hyperextended. And then somebody needs help with tourgetés, or also called entrelacés. And then somebody needs help with arabesque. And if you didn't just hear me say your question out loud, ask again, because I go through a lot of comments and I try to pick out questions, so it's possible that I missed yours in the whole plethora of comments, but so far, those are the videos that I have left on my list as far as tutorials go. So yeah, this video is mostly me venting and sulking and kicking myself for having such a bad audition, but this happens so frequently to so many dancers, and maybe they don't have endometriosis, they might have something else. They could have so many other invisible illnesses or autoimmune disorders. They could have fibromyalgia or lupus, or they could have a neurological disorder that we don't see, mental health issues that you don't see, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, eating disorders. All of these things take a toll on dancers. It interferes with their life, and there is so little discussion about any of it. We're afraid to admit that we're sick, and we're afraid to seek help for it because your issue could be turned against you. Something that you can't help and you have no control over can be a reason to not be hired. Something that you have absolutely no say in can be the reason somebody wants to cut you from an audition or doesn't want to hire you, because nobody wants to deal with sickness. Nobody wants any excuses. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of ballet. Not just being hired as an employee in a company, but your training when you start taking classes. It's work hard, work through the pain. You gotta make it work. It's either there or it's not. No excuses. If you really want to be here, you'll work through whatever problems you have. And everybody wants to be that person. Everybody wants to have the gumption and the fortitude to work through their problems. Anybody that has an issue, an invisible illness, a mental health problem, they wish with all their might that they could just work through the problem and ignore the problem and put it on the back burner and not let it affect and control their life and their dancing. But that's not realistic. That's not the case. We're not immortals. We're not Superman. We don't have superpowers. We have these bodies that can do amazing things. They dance and they try to heal themselves. If you break a bone, your body can mend it. If you sprain something, your body can heal it. If you get sick with a cold or a flu, your body can fight it. But some bodies are not perfect in all the compartments. Some bodies and some brains just have a couple of issues. They're not all perfect. Some bodies and some brains just need a little help. They need a little extra care. So I feel like my periods are getting bad again. Like in a few months, they might be as bad as they were immediately before my surgery. By the end of this year, I might be back to throwing up and not being able to breathe and not being able to walk upright. And unfortunately for my illness, for endometriosis, surgery is not a cure. And even a hysterectomy is not a cure. It can still grow back in other places outside of the uterus. That's what endometriosis is. The same tissue that is inside your uterus grows outside the uterus. So you have that same tissue filling up with blood every month, but it can't escape because it's not in the uterus and it doesn't have the access to exit the body during your period. So it just keeps staying in these cysts and it just keeps filling up with more and more blood and causes more and more inflammation on other organs. But as it stands right now, literally my period is the thing that prevents me from going on auditions and performing and getting jobs. I can miss up to 2 or 3 days of class and technique and training. I've missed rehearsals just from my period. And I'm at the point where I just want the whole uterus out. I don't want to menstruate anymore, and I don't want children. And everybody's saying, oh, don't be so extreme. It's easy to tell somebody that it's extreme when you're not the one experiencing it. If this were any other part of my body causing this much trouble, this consistently, like if this was my tonsils acting up every month, preventing me from doing my job, those tonsils would have been taken out years ago. If this was a gallbladder or appendix or any other organ, even if it was a part of my stomach or my intestines or a part of my lung or my liver, if it's possible to remove it and still live without it, it would have been done. But because it's the womb and it's the woman's job to bear babies and we're all just baby machines here to make fucking babies, it's like, no, you want to keep that. That's the only thing that gives you any kind of value in society. I don't care. I don't want to menstruate anymore. I don't want to be on a birth control pill. I want to be able to have sex but not have to worry about getting pregnant. I don't want babies. I don't have the mothering instinct. I don't need this uterus. This uterus is ruining my life and it needs to go. That's what's going on now. Now it's escalated to the point where it's going to start coming up. You might hear me talk about it in videos now. I didn't used to. It was not always an issue. It was mostly manageable, but now it's getting to the point where it's not manageable. Hopefully the next video I make, I'll be back in the studio.